Well, hi there. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Azure Certification. Now, this video is being created as part of the Azure Advent Calendar for 2019. If you go to the URL on screen, azureadventcalendar.com, you can see a calendar of a lot of great Azure-related content that's being created in the month of December. There's a lot of people in the Azure space, not just certification, that are creating videos and blog posts for you. And so you can every single day get a new piece of content or two from a lot of great people. So first of all, hello. If we haven't met before, my name is Scott Duffy, and I think about certification every single day. I am certified along many different aspects of Microsoft Azure, and so I'm here today to talk to you about certification, why you should consider it, what benefits it brings, and what options Microsoft has. First question that might come to mind is, why should I bother getting certified? I am working in Azure, or I want to work in Azure. I'm thinking about learning Azure, but what's the certification thing and why should I bother? So in my mind, there are four main reasons why you want to consider getting certified. First of all, the certification gives you a very measurable goal to achieve. You study for the test, you pass the test, and you get a passing grade with a certificate, and that's the goal. And so instead of just embarking on a random tour through a topic like Microsoft Azure with no specific goal in mind, you want to learn it, but what's the marking of the completion of that goal? So in my mind, getting certified is a definite proof that you have accomplished the goal, which is to learn Microsoft Azure. It also forces you to get exposure to things that you might not normally see. Whenever I go to a new city, I often take one of those hop-on, hop-off tour buses. Now, a lot of people look down at those as being not real tourism, but it does give you exposure to a lot of a city that you might not see. So you get a full tour of the city from corner to corner, a lot of the tourist spots in a single day, and it allows you to go and explore later on at your own pace some of those things again. But doing a once pass through to an entire city gives you a really broad view of it. And it's the same thing with Microsoft Azure. If you get certified, then you're going to be exposed to many different topics that you might not even normally get exposed to. So maybe in your day-to-day job, you're working with virtual machines and Windows and Linux, but the certification is going to get you into the command line. It's going to get you into ARM templates. It's going to get you in databases, things that you haven't get exposed to on a day-to-day basis. The number three benefit is it actually does qualify you to a number of jobs. Now, there might not be a lot of job postings that require certification as being one of the prerequisites. But when an employer is sitting down and looking at 4 or 5 different resumes for a position, and he sees one person has 4 or 5 certifications related to that, and the other 2 people don't, all things being equal, the certification does give you, and it's an indication, it's a stamp of approval. It's Microsoft saying, this person knows enough about Microsoft Azure to pass these tough tests. Now, your boss might even consider you for a project as opposed to your colleague, simply because you took the initiative to get certified. And the fourth benefit is we do live in an age in technology where you must adopt a lifelong learning habit. That means that the skills that you graduated college or university with are not going to be enough to take you through your entire life. You are going to have to relearn some skills from time to time in some formal settings, informal settings, on-the-job training, and others. Getting certified and having to keep getting certified. So certifications in the Microsoft space last for 2 years, and then you're going to have to recertify. So that is basically part of your lifelong learning habit. And so I think it's a very positive skill to have. It's a proof to an employer that you're taking your responsibility in your own hands to learn a new skill. And so whether you take a course, whether you read a book, whether you actually do some projects, lifelong learning is a great skill to adopt, and getting certified reinforces that habit. So those are the reasons why you might want to consider getting certified. But it's a big space. When we start to look at some of the certifications that Microsoft offers, there are now dozens and dozens of them. So let's talk about some of them, and maybe within these options, you're going to start to find things that appeal to you. So here we are. I'm recording this at the end of 2019. It's December, and there are 10 Azure platform-related certifications. And then you add on to that all of the Dynamics and the Power App certifications, plus the Microsoft Modern Desktop 365 certifications, and that's going to give you a lot of options. Now, my focus in my day job is on the platform certifications. And we can see on screen the 10 platform certifications from Fundamentals, Administrator, Developer, Architect, and some of those other specialist certifications. Microsoft does give out badges. These are the modern way of getting certified. And so you're going to, whether you pass the Fundamentals exam, you'll get a Fundamentals badge. There's an associate level badge for those exams and an expert level badge. And if you pass a particular exam that's a specialty exam, then you'll get that specialty badge. These are things you can put on your resume, on your LinkedIn, and they're basically just the equivalent of the certification that you would have printed 10 years ago. Now, there is a rather large document that covers all the different certification paths, and we're going to go through this sort of one by one. So you can see here there are 4 main areas. Now, I called it platform. It counts as the infrastructure and the data and I bits together. You got the modern workplace, and then you got the business applications. So at the top of this path here, we have the platform stuff, which is AZ-900, AZ-103, 203, and even AZ-400. And then you've got the data stuff as well. So let's look at the top of that chart here. Now, there are 6 tests that lead to 5 possible certifications. Taking on the left, you have the Fundamentals track. And so that's a completely optional certificate, and we'll talk about that coming up next. But that does lead you, that one exam leads you to a Fundamentals certification. In the middle, you have the associate level track, which is obviously a little harder than the Fundamentals track. And you can either get the administrator or the developer certificate from taking one test in that track. Finally, at the expert level along the right, you have 2 options. You can get the DevOps exam, which does have a prerequisite to it, or the Azure Architect exam, which is actually 2 exams to get you one certificate. So let's talk about the AZ-900. That's the Fundamentals exam. So you just have to pass the one exam, and that will get you this Azure Fundamentals badge. It does cover basic cloud computing knowledge and some basic understanding of Azure services. Now, obviously, it's not expecting you to write code or to have programmed and done some really deep work within those things, but it is actually a tougher exam than you might expect. It's not just a very simplistic exam. You do have to study for it, and you will find some challenging questions along that. Now, it's a completely optional exam. It is not the prerequisite for any other exam. And so if you do have intentions of going to the deeper levels in the associate and expert levels, you do not have to take this test. It is actually cheaper than the other tests, so it's also a good introduction. Now, in terms of this exam, I actually do recommend that people take it for the most part. Now, obviously, if you've been working with Azure for 5 years and you are already pretty far along, maybe this is going to be a little bit of a waste of time for you. But for most people, going through this process is actually got some really good benefits beyond just passing a very simplistic test. Now, this is kind of like a taster or an appetizer, right? So if you're able to pass this 900, it's going to get you, let's say, 25% of the way towards the Azure Administrator exam. So it's not exactly, it's pretty deep, but it's not too deep. But you'll get used to the test questions, you'll get used to the testing center and the way that Microsoft frames things and gets you that study habit. There also is actually getting to be a good selection of free resources. So if you go to the Microsoft Learn website, you can see that there is Azure Fundamentals as a track, and it does put together 8 or 9 hours of learning under this free banner. So it's actually, out of all the exams that are available, there are a lot of good free resources for the AZ-900 test. Next down the line, when we get into the associate level exams, would be something like AZ-103. Now, the administrators are the IT pros. These are the people who keep your systems running the day-to-day operations of your company. It is only one exam to get this certificate. So the AZ-103 exam leads to the Azure Administrator Associate Certification. Like I said, you don't have to get the AZ-900 in order to go for this test. Now, I listed the top level topics on screen and their percentages. And so you can see it's basically working with virtual machines, virtual networks, storage, subscriptions, and identities. These are all basic stuff within Microsoft Azure. Some of the fundamental building blocks of putting a solution together. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have the AZ-203 developer exam. Now, the developer exam is somebody who works with code. Now, there are not code questions on this test, but you do need to have to know how to work with Azure. And you can see when we list all of the requirements of this exam, it is develop for compute, develop for web apps, develop for storage, implement security. So these are all developer level tasks that you need to be able to complete. Now, you don't have to get the 103 in order to get the 203 or vice versa. There's no dependency here as well. Now, in order to get the expert level certification, which in this case is the Azure Architecture certification, you need to pass 2 exams. So there's the AZ-300 and the AZ-301, 2 separate tests taken on different days covering slightly different topics. The architects are the people who design solutions to work in the cloud, and they'll work with the developers and they'll work with the ops team to get it implemented. So the AZ-300 is the technologies exam, technology-focused exam. We can see that the topics being covered are very similar to the 103 administrator test, but it is deploy infrastructure, implement workloads, deploy apps, implement authentication. These are all, again, lower level, doing the task skills. So architects don't get away with only knowing the theory without knowing the practice. You do have to know how to work with Azure at a deeper level to be an Azure Architect certified. Now, the other exam, the 301 exam, is more of a design and strategy focused exam, and we can see the topics covered are about designing identity and designing the data platform and designing business continuity. These are strategic, these are design related things. Of course, some of this stuff does require you to know, how to implement replication, etc. But less of a technology-focused exam and more of a architecture-focused exam. So those 2 exams together get you Azure Architect Expert certification, which is quite an accomplishment. Now, there was also another exam on that graph called the AZ-400, which is a DevOps certification. Now, it is only one exam, AZ-400, in order to get this badge, but there is a prerequisite of having either the developer or administrator certifications before. So it is basically you have to take one of those exams plus the AZ-400. Now, DevOps is an interesting combination of developer and administrator, and it has to do with designing continuous integration to continuous delivery, pipelines, the Azure DevOps services, the deployment process, the development process, etc. Now, in 2019, Microsoft did come out with a couple of additional types of exams. One is the AZ-500, which is a security exam. It is focused on security topics, Azure Active Directory being a prime topic in there, application gateways and network security groups, etc. And so it's all about managing identity, implementing platform protection, denial of service attack protection, etc., and all of these things. So if you're into the security of Azure, it's going to be a big area. It's going to be, cloud computing security is huge in the production space. Getting a security certificate definitely going to help your career in that respect. And finally, in the last little while, this is in beta, the AZ-120 exam, which is Azure SAP specialty, has been released. I haven't seen much about this exam. I don't think there are any study resources, but if you are working with a SAP in Azure, or you intend to work with SAP in Azure, then this is the type of thing that's going to advance your career in that section. So here once again is that graph that shows the core exams. It doesn't show the 500 or the SAP one, but we can see we got the optional fundamentals leading to 103 and or 203, which will get you to the 400 level for DevOps, or you can go to the 300 and 301 levels for Azure Architect. Now, also this year, Microsoft's been deploying data-related exams. So we have this DP100, DP200, and 201, and AI100. These are data scientists, data engineers, and AI engineers. And we'll talk about the differences between those three. We still see the AZ-900 on the fundamentals, so it's the same exam as the platform exam. And the Azure Architect, there is not a specific AI and data scientist expert level certification just yet. So they're still talking about the overall expert. But there are 3 associate exams relating to data. So the DP100 has to do with building and training models. So if you are in that machine learning space and you're able to prepare a development environment, prepare the data, and then develop models, then this is the exam that will certify that. And if you go through it, that's a good way to learn about machine learning. There is this development type exam, which is DP200 and DP201. You can see here they are very, very similar. One says implement data storage, manage data processing, and monitor data solutions. And the other one says design data storage, design data processing, and design data security and compliance. And so there are, just like the AZ-300 exam, DP200 has the implement and manage section at DP200 and the design and strategize in DP201. Finally, there's also an AI specific exam. Now this is more comprehensive, right? So instead of just working with models in the machine learning space, this is talking about using some of the cognitive services, designing complete solutions, understanding the solution requirements. So 25 to 30% of the exam has to do with taking a business requirement from a client and figuring out what components of the AI solution you can include, designing AI solutions, and monitoring them. So again, this is a lot of cognitive services, chatbots, and things like that. So back to the graph, we can see, again, AZ-900 is still the fundamentals. AZ-300 and 301 is still the expert, but you have these data and AI-related certifications in the middle. Now, as we're moving on, this is the modern desktop section. This is basically a whole new set of certifications. It's not necessarily Azure related. I do want to talk about it because it's part of Microsoft's role-based certification process. But you'll see here it's talking about Microsoft 365, teamwork, and stuff like that. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but this is another set of certifications. And if you're into that space, the modern desktop space, maybe the old MCSE certification dealing with Windows servers and the like, this would be the new set that you'll be working with. And finally, when we get into the business solutions, the Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the those types of exams have just exploded. Like we can see on screen, 15 different exams relating to Dynamics. And so for all the sales and marketing, customer service, operations, finance, all of those business applications. Again, not necessarily related to Azure, so I'm not going to get deep into those exams, but Microsoft is really blowing out these certification paths along all of these different channels. And so if Dynamics is your thing, then go and investigate a lot of those Dynamics options. Now, this video is getting a bit long. Thank you so much for sticking in with me here. I do want to summarize what we've talked about so far. It's true. You don't need to get certified. There's not really that many jobs that list certification as being an absolute prerequisite, and they wouldn't talk to you if you're not certified. So we can be honest and say it's not needed. But there are a lot of great benefits to being certified. I find it personally to be a really fun and rewarding experience. I've been certified in Microsoft technologies for more than 20 years in different fields, going back long time ago. And I find it fun to get certified. It's an accomplishment at the end of studying a couple of weeks, and you go take the exam and you learn right away that you passed. You walk out of the center feeling like, wow, I did it. And you can just keep that cycle going. It's a good way to learn and get rewarded for learning. There are also communities around this. So if you're into communicating with other people about Azure topics, I have in a community. There are other communities. You can see the link on screen. sjd.ca/AzureFB is my Azure Facebook group. There are also other groups that are related to Azure as well. And so you can join a community, get to know people, talk about Azure every day. And it's just another place for you to socialize essentially around a topic such as Microsoft Azure. I'm an Azure trainer, and I train certification, so I do have a list of Azure courses. If you go to my site, sjd.ca/Azure course, you can list all of the courses that I have relating to these exams. So I just want to thank you so much for sticking with me into this video. We've talked about certification. I do go to the different Microsoft things. I'll go to Microsoft Ignite, the tour in Toronto in January. I go to Microsoft Ignite, the thing in October in Orlando. And so if you see me around in my Microsoft events, I'd love to talk to you, love to say hi. Thank you so much. It's been great talking today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.